Good evening, and welcome to the Miracle of Prosperity. I am Reverend Jim Webb, author of the book The Soul of Prosperity, and senior minister of the Tacoma Metaphysical Chapel in Silver Spring, Maryland. It's a pleasure to be here this evening because every Sunday evening we work with all the ways that we can eliminate the blockages to the prosperity that is always available to us in infinite supply. We look at ways that we can allow prosperity to manifest in the form of relationship prosperity, where we cultivate an inner energy of deep peace and harmony so that our relationships are reflective of that peace, harmony, and support that we give to ourselves from within. We also look at ways that we can cultivate professional prosperity, where, in the words of Florence Scovel Shen, we have a wonderful job with wonderful pay, where we offer a wonderful service in a wonderful way. We look also at spiritual prosperity, where we can attain the peace that passes all understanding, so that we have a peaceful, joyful life. And we look at logistical prosperity, so our life just works better, and all the struggles and suffering is mitigated, and our lives become joyful, productive, and more effortless. And finally, of course, we look at financial prosperity, where our finances are a source of joy and ease, and no longer a source of worry, lack, suffering, or deprivation. So our task, just like Rumi said, love is always there. Our task is to remove the barriers to it. Well, prosperity is simply love made manifest in many forms. And it too is always there. And our task is to remove the barriers that allow this prosperity to live within us, so that it is then outpictured outside of us. And there are many ways to remove these barriers, and I'm very excited about one of the ways that we're going to work with tonight. We're going to work with family constellations, and it is a much more layered topic than I ever thought. What most laymen tend to know about family constellations is we do have an inkling that there are times when our birth order may determine levels of self-esteem, levels of initiative, and that can affect our prosperity, either positively or negatively. But there's much more to it than that. So I wanted to explore it a little deeper. So I found an expert. I actually found him about 25 years ago. I have a picture of Randy from about 25 years ago when he first moved to D.C. And that's my guest, Randy Goldberg. Hello, Randy.
Hey, Jim, how you doing? Great to see
Good.
you.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you. Really good to be here.
I'm glad you're here. And so let me tell you guys about Randy. I've known him now for like 25 years. I have a picture of him. You look just the same. I have a picture of him years ago when he came to the chapel when he was reading Tarot for us at one of our fairs. But Randy is so much more than that. He's a graduate of the D.C. Hellinger Institute, Advanced Studies in Family Constellation, and he did that with Heinz Stark in Germany. He's a former yoga monk. He's a craniosacral therapist. He's an amazing tarot reader. And he's been interviewed by NPR and CNN and the Washington Post for some of his astrology work as well. So he's a multi-talented spiritual teacher and master. And what he's going to talk with us about tonight is his family constellation work and how that can help us to advance and enhance our prosperity. So we're going to get right to it now with Randy Goldberg. So Randy, when I backed into this topic, I was like many other laymen that thought that family constellation work had to do with birth order and a little bit more. But when you described it to me, it seemed to be a little bit more comprehensive than that. And it seemed to And so, why don't you tell us what constellation therapy is and how we can just picture ourselves using it to release some of the blockages to our prosperity?
Yeah, absolutely. So, family constellation, it's also called systemic constellations, and it's
Okay.
even used in companies. It's used in so many different settings,
Mm-hmm.
but it can be used to help remove any block that a person's having in their life in any
Mm-hmm.
area of their life. So, whatever the issue that's the most pressing for them.
So,
And
how do you do this?
Okay, so it's also called field therapy. We're looking at a person's what's going on in the person's field. As you
In their
know, in
energy field, in other words?
yeah, what they call
Okay.
qi and
Their
in
chi, their
Chinese
life
medicine,
force.
and
Yes. Okay.
yeah, life force. So we're all you can think we have our life. That means that we
Yes.
received this. There's a flow of life that came to us, and that's how we got our.
Yes.
So it's like we're in a river of life. So there's this
Yes.
flow of love and life force that we
Mm-hmm.
receive as a child.
Yes.
And then in families, due to different problems, difficulties, that river, that flow gets distorted. And
Yes.
so you're not able to access the prosperity or whatever. You're not able to prosper. You're not able to move forward in the way that you
Yes.
would like to in your life.
In
So
other
this,
words, when the
uh,
energy is blocked or distorted, our ability to use the energy to manifest prosperity gets blocked or distorted.
absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And that's going on in the unconscious. And so that's
Yes.
why this work is valuable. I love Jungian psychology, things that go to the
Mm-hmm.
depth and
Yes.
get at what's really blocking us that's not in our view. And the way we do
Yes.
that with working with the field, I work one on one. I do individual work. People
Mm-hmm.
have Zoom calls and do all that kind of one on one work. But I
Mm-hmm.
also have group workshops where we'll be sitting 10, 15 people in a circle, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll work one at a time with the people who
Mm-hmm.
are interested in working,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll have a short discussion with them, but I'm not that interested in their story. Often their story kind of reinforces what they've been telling themselves and where they're stuck. And
Exactly. One of the things that
um,
I notice in working with people is that same thing. We have to disempower their story so they can
mhm,
then claim their glory. Because what I've noticed that is quite fascinating is how when someone starts locking into their story, it's almost like they get hypnotized and they
yeah,
are almost possessed by that energy. And that energy almost solidifies as opposed to dissolving.
it's like ruts. We're just,
Yes.
it's part of where ego formation, however you want to think of these different things
Yes.
that where we build up our self-image, and then
Yes.
we feel stuck in those ways.
So you
So
want to disempower the story.
well, I want to find the real story below what's going on energetically,
Okay.
what is actually
Okay.
happening,
Uh-huh.
and to help resolve the blocks, to find the hidden
Okay.
solutions that are
Mm-hmm.
there, and to allow them to access that life force, to that flow of love and life force that's there for them, that's available for them.
Okay. So
And
once you de-emphasize their ego story, what do you do next?
well, what I do, I mean, and their story is fine. Their story is their story. I'm not that interested in it. What I'm interested in is to seeing what's really going on energetically. So
Right.
we set that up, and they'll have the person pick different people from the group, and I'll help them set up some initial figures that represent their issue. And a lot of times we're struggling with our issue internally, and
Mm-hmm.
we're just go around and round, and we can't figure out. And so putting that problem outside of you, just that is a huge step. Then you have an
Okay.
image. Oh, this is what it looks like. This is how the energy, you get that representation. And as
Yes.
Carl
So
Jung
give me an
says, you
example
have
of
an
what an
image
external
of you.
image would be. Give me an example of
Well,
that
yeah, okay.
so my viewers
So
can
let's
understand.
say, suppose a case I can remember where I was working with a woman who had not spoken with her daughter for several years, and they're
Okay.
completely estranged.
Uh-huh.
So I just I told her, pick a representative for you and one for your daughter. So she
Okay.
picked two people, and then the way they do that is they come behind and just hold their shoulders and just feel where it feels right to place them in the space. They're not
Okay,
thinking
I need
about
to
it.
stop you because I'm trying to
Mhm.
get our viewers to get a visual picture of it. So,
Mhm.
who goes behind whom? Does the
So the
person who
person
had the
who's
issue?
working on their issue, they're setting up their issue. but they don't
Okay.
have a preconceived notion of what they're going to set up. They just
Okay.
go behind the person who's representing them or the person that was representing their mother, and they
Okay.
set both of them up. And then we have that person just sit down and see what unfolds.
Okay. So
And
let me be a daughter. Okay.
uh-huh.
I'll be the daughter. So if I'm the
Hmm.
daughter, will I go
No,
behind the subject, or will the subject come
no.
behind me?
If you're the rep for the daughter, it's always the
Yes.
client who's setting up the representatives.
Okay, so
And so,
I'm the rep for the daughter. So the client who is the subject of the healing, does she go behind me or do I go behind her? I want to give our people a good
yeah, yeah.
picture of this.
These terms can be confusing. The person who's doing their piece of work sets it
Okay.
up. So the other people are chosen from the circle. They don't know anything about the issue. They don't know anything about
Right.
this person, and that person sets them up. And once they've set them up and they sit down, they're often surprised by what they've set up. They're like, "Oh my gosh, the mother and the daughter are look. Me and my daughter are looking opposite directions with our backs towards each other."
Okay.
And so they
Well,
hadn't really had
I'm
that
trying to
image.
get people to get a picture of this. So,
Hmm.
what do you mean when you say set up? I'm trying to,
Yeah. Okay.
if there's
What they
me,
do?
Wanda, and Shay,
Hmm.
if there are me, Wanda, and Shay, and Wanda represents my daughter, Shay
Hmm.
represents my mother,
Hmm.
and I'm the subject of this.
Yeah.
Help me
So
understand what would happen to me.
in the workshop, we say the people that have been picked, please stand
Mhm.
up. Then,
Okay.
if it's you working on your issue, you will walk and go behind them and
I
put
will
your
go
hands on
behind
their
Wanda
shoulders.
as my daughter, and I will go behind Shay as my mother. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
they're representing one's representing you, one's representing your daughter, and you set them up in the field. And everyone is sitting there for thousands of years. We sat in circles, and this is
Yes.
a powerful ritual to be able to do that. And we're all focused. We have our
Okay.
intention there, and it
Okay.
constellates the field for that
Okay.
person. And the energy starts moving through these people who are standing there as representatives, and they don't have to have any special training or anything.
They
They
don't need to
just
be psychics to get the energy.
not at all. That's what's amazing.
Okay.
This work is
Okay.
very shamanic and it's very experiential.
Yes. Okay.
And people are amazed. It's a little bit hard to talk about because it's
Mm-hmm.
experiential. Once you've experienced
Yes.
it, then you'll understand what's going on. But
Yes.
really, the miracle of it is once they've set those people up and they're there standing in the field, and it's very meditative. We also call
Yes.
this soul work. So it
Yes.
happens very slowly. I do a guided meditation to begin
Mm-hmm.
with to hook people up to their ancestral energies and just to slow
Yes.
everybody down. The
Okay.
mind jumps very quick to thoughts and ideas. And with this, we really want to slow things down so we can take it at a deep level where we really have a shift when we get our
Okay.
insights.
Okay.
So those people who are now standing, one's a representative of you, one's a representative of your daughter, if it's your issue in this example,
Mm-hmm.
um, they would take a couple minutes and start to notice what's going on in their body. And
Okay.
often they'll feel like, oh, I'm standing too close to this person. Or
Okay.
maybe it's, I don't even know that other rep is there. I can't even see them.
Uh-huh.
And there's all kinds of different things that they'll start to notice. And as a facilitator, I'll be checking in and having them follow the different movements. And I've been trained to use different healing phrases that kind of free up the energy. At
Okay.
the beginning, it's just a lot of truth statements, saying what's going on in the field and stating their truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that clarifies, truth clarifies things.
Okay.
And
So
then
I'm wondering if
mhm.
we can do a little live example of this now so that our viewers can really understand how beneficial this can be. So,
Yeah. Um, okay. Well, do you have an issue you want me to work with you?
sure. Yeah.
Okay, let's
I'll be
do it.
transparent.
Okay, yeah, put it out there. So imagine I had a magic wand,
Uh-huh.
and but the thing is, it's a little bit difficult because I was explaining a group workshop. So now
Okay.
we're shifting out of the group workshop, and it will be a
Well,
different
but I
kind
can
of
bring
story.
somebody in. Like I'll bring Shay in as my mother. Shay is one of our
Yeah,
viewers.
but
Okay.
so that's why in a group workshop we have the people to work with. So
Okay.
um, it won't really be possible, and it takes longer. Like I said, this is very slow work. It's very meditative. You have to listen to the field. But what happens is all
Hmm.
these dynamics. The people, they want to move. Like, I got to
Right.
get away from this person, and I'm
Okay.
feeling this feeling. And like I said, the person didn't know anything about that person. They knew nothing about this other person they're representing,
Hmm.
and and that's what's uncanny for the person who's having the work done. They're
Okay.
like,
Now
that
I
is so
okay.
spot on. What you said is
Okay. Now
exactly
I
the
get
way
it.
my
Okay.
mother
Because let
is.
me tell you what is going to happen. Because I'm reading
Hmm.
Shay's energy right now.
Hmm.
Um, I put Shay up as my mother,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And when I put Shay up as my mother, she felt a feeling of control, and I felt a feeling of abandonment. And
Hmm.
when I asked what this was all about,
Mm.
um, right before we started doing the show, I was configuring my next car. I was
Hmm.
doing the options and do I want the upgraded stereo system, blah,
Hmm.
blah, 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 blah. And I
Yeah.
was doing that. I got into the dynamics with my mother because my
Uh,
mother was very practical. You have a pair
hmm.
of shoes. Why do you need another one?
Right. Right.
And as I was configuring this car, I'm like, well, it comes with a pretty good stereo. Why do I need the upgraded stereo? Because I love music.
Yeah.
And, so I was getting into this tit for tat with me,
Hmm.
but I realized it was my mother. And I
Yeah.
realized it was my mother's very practical bent versus my more idealistic bent. And
Well,
my mother's very
she
practical
probably
bent
went through
was based
different
on the fact that,
traumas.
yeah, her very
She went
practical bent
through
was based on the
economic
fact that, yes,
deprivation,
her,
different things. So now let me give you a healing phrase that you
yes,
could use in this phrase. So
okay,
for one thing, and often if we're doing this in the workshop, a person holds something heavy, like if there's a big stone,
okay,
and you'll have that in your hand. You'll literally,
okay,
we're doing it like a ritual. The mind really likes
yes,
rituals and helps shift the
okay,
energy.
okay,
So go ahead right now, cup this heavy burden that belongs to your mom.
okay.
And I want you to say to your mom, dear mom,
Dear mom,
and really drop into your heart as you say this. I took this burden that belongs to you. I took it out of love from you.
I took this burden that belongs to you, the burden of poverty, the burden of difficulty in life, the burden of everything having to have been worked for, fought for, and moved through enormous difficulty for. I
Yeah.
took this burden from you
And
as
I,
if
I
it were
took it
mine.
out of love. I did that and tried to heal you. Trying it was an act of love by
I
taking that
took
on.
this out of love.
But
Yes.
now, out of love, I give it back to you
But now, out of love, I give it back to you
because it belongs to you, and I honor you by leaving with you what is yours.
because it belongs to you, and I honor you by leaving to you what is yours.
And she accepts it. She is very happy to have that. She thanks you.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you. I am the big one. You are the little one. I was the adult. You are the child. It's for me to give and you to take. But in this role, this is, I can handle this. I'm big. I can
Yes.
handle this. So
Okay.
thank you. So this is part of my fate. But I
Yes.
want you not only to give that back, I want you
Mm-hmm.
to receive my blessing, a
Yes.
blessing to live a full and happy and prosperous life. You have
Yes.
everything and anything you want that will make you happy, that will make you healthy and have a meaningful, rich life. That's what I want for you, and you have my blessing.
Okay. I get this, and I think our
Yeah.
guests
And
get this too.
take a moment just to breathe that blessing in
Yes.
and feel it. It comes from the ancestors. So not just
Yes.
her, but the people standing. We stand on the
Yes.
shoulders of so many people that came before
Right.
us. They went through
Yes.
so many struggles, and they're so
Yes.
happy to see life go forward. They're so
Yes.
happy to, they're proud of you.
Yes.
They want that love to reach you. And as
Yes.
we can do a daily meditation where you feel your parents behind you, your grandparents, your great grandparents, going all the way back to your ancient ancestors, and you
Mm-hmm.
feel that flow of love and life force, and you allow yourself to hook up to it, and you allow yourself to lean back into it. Like they have your back. They had so many qualities. They were healers. They had wisdom, and you can draw on that.
And they were strong.
And bring that, yes. And you're hooking up to your roots, literally your roots.
Okay.
And as you do this, then you can go forward in your life in a really good way, and you're able to see your future and move into it in the way that you would like to.
Yes. This is very useful. Thank you. And let me just break this down to our viewers as well. What you saw was a real-time healing. You saw me come in with a burden that was like a boulder, and the burden was conflict. And we've talked about this before, and in one of my chapters in The Soul of Prosperity, we talked about the unconscious fear we have of flying too close to the sun and leaving the nest because of our family patterning, and the fear we have unconsciously of leaving the family patterning. Because if we fear that if we leave the family patterning for something different, we will not get what we need to survive. And that is a primal fear. Well, what you observed tonight was another way to work with this. Because what Randy taught us is that we may have carried a family burden. We may have carried that family burden out of loyalty. Our family wants us to give it up because they want the best for us. We want to give it up because we want the best for us, but we feel stuck in that pattern. And what Randy demonstrated for us was a way to look at this more objectively, to find out what was going on in our heart that was creating the conflict, to give this back, and to receive the blessing for releasing this. So that was quite wonderful and quite powerful. And so now we're going to have a chance to ask questions of Randy about this or about any other thing that we are dealing with. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on break, and we're going to sell some soap. And when we come back, you can ask your questions of Randy, and we can work with your family constellations, and you can understand how this works a little bit more. So we're going to go to break here on the New Thought Media Network, and we'll be back.
Choice, your creative superpower. We have the power to manifest as we dedicate attention to our thoughts, but often miss opportunity to achieve the greatest good. Your superpower is waiting to be unleashed to unlock a fuller, more rewarding world for all. Join us every Thursday at noon Mountain Time for Choice, your creative superpower with Zoe DeMuro.
Watch me change when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors and donors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, and all of our individual donors and sponsors. Thank you for being a part of the New Thought Media Network. Please come be you.
And we're back here on the New Thought Media Network with the Miracle of Prosperity. And we're so glad that you are here with us. We've got Randy Goldberg. He is going to work with us on family constellation therapy. How many of the patterns that we may have adopted that may or may not support our prosperity were learned by our family experiences, and how we can address that if those patterns block our prosperity. So why don't you summarize for some who may not have been with us from the beginning, just summarize how family constellation therapy can help them to unblock.
Well, you
blockages
gave
to prosperity.
the example of that chapter in your book, and often we feel this loyalty with the family that
Yes.
if I can't be more prosperous than my mother and father, and particularly if they struggled, and so we take on that limitation out of love. We think because belonging is so important.
Yes.
How can there be these wars where both people are killing each other, but they both feel justified because they both are doing it for the group they belong to. So this
Yes.
belonging is the root chakra, first chakra. It is the most powerful drive in and so we feel we feel that we'll be disloyal to them. And so in that powerful healing that I just did with you, Jim, I would like to take a moment to take one other step that also clarifies what you were saying about in that chapter that you talked about. So I'm going to have you see yourself before your mother. And sometimes in this work, we have you bow to them, like with our hands, and just kind of relax our neck, that kind of thing. But the main thing is to drop into your heart. And I just want you to say this phrase that, dear mom,
Dear
look
Mom,
kindly on me, look kindly on me
Mhm.
as I am more prosperous than you were in your life.
As I am more prosperous than you were in your life.
And we stay connected in our heart always.
And we will stay connected in our hearts always.
And we each have our place, and we each belong to the family.
And we each have our place, and we each belong to the family.
And I deeply honor you as my mother.
And I deeply honor you as my mother.
Just take that resonance into your heart. And feel how it frees up the system. We do this work, people feel a new like wind in their sails.
I
They
felt a
feel
new
this
wind in
new
my lungs.
vitality.
All of a sudden, I felt I was breathing easier because
Yeah,
something that was
exactly.
inhibiting my breath was allowing. And guess what? What is breath? Breath is life force, right? So all of a sudden, my life force started flowing more freely. Isn't that fascinating? I think it's fascinating.
On
So
the
yeah.
people that I work with, the impact it's had on my life. I'm really inspired about working with people with the field and to help them get unblocked from these different
Yes.
unconscious entanglements.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So that is a wonderful example of how we can release a blockage that we didn't even know we had. One of the things that has always been quite clear to me is that everybody wants to be prosperous. Everybody knows that they deserve to be prosperous. And most New Thought people know and understand that God, as A Course in Miracles Lessons 101 to 103 might say, God's will for us is perfect happiness. So we all know this intellectually. So the blockages are not conscious, they are unconscious. And quite often, we can't put a name or a face to them. But what you just did with my very timely example, you helped me to put a name and a face to it. And by giving it, you called it an object. By giving it an object, putting a name and a face to it, I was able to more clearly identify the blockage, the source of the blockage, the misunderstanding that created the blockage, and to get to a truth that would release the blockage and allow the flow.
Yeah,
So,
that's right. And that's the beauty of this work. We're allowing, Carl Jung said, our conscious mind is the tip of the iceberg. Most
and
of
the
our
rest of,
being
and the other
is
80%,
unconscious.
that's what sunk the Titanic.
Yeah,
The
that's right.
Titanic thought it was sailing in clear water. It saw an iceberg. It thought it
Hmm.
swerved away around it. But
Hmm.
no, it was the part of the iceberg beneath the surface, the part
Yeah.
of our consciousness beneath the surface that will rip a hole into our dreams
Hmm.
is the unconscious mind. And
Yeah.
so, what you do is you help us to bring the unconscious blockages up into our consciousness by giving them a name and a face. And by giving them that form, we can address them more effectively and more efficiently. And
And
that's
we can have
very,
all
very
kinds of
powerful.
unconscious entanglements. Out of
Yes.
love, we feel identified with people in our family line that had difficult fates. We want to bring
Yes.
them in, we want to heal them. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we'll live out that pattern of difficulty
Mm-hmm.
thinking that we're healing them. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
magical thinking. You take that on as a
Yes.
child, but you're
Mm-hmm.
not helping that person. And in fact, you're just hindering yourself. So freeing yourself from these splits, from these unconscious,
Yes.
and sometimes they're vows, they're sacred contacts that we take as a child, as even as a
Right.
baby. And so releasing yourself from those hidden vows, these sacred contracts that we made with our soul,
Yes.
our higher self, our soul wants us to be free, it wants the energy to move. So it will give permission for these things that we've been holding on to be released. And
Yes.
then the vitality opens up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so well stated and so much appreciated. So let's see if we have some questions here. Let's see what questions we have. I'm just going to look at them pretty briefly.
Mhm.
And anybody else who has some questions, feel free to type them in. Any questions or comments, feel free to type them in.
One question that comes
Okay.
up about this work is, you know, people don't realize that they think, oh, I just have to work on some kind of family dynamic. No, you can work on a health issue. You can work
Mm-hmm.
on your issue with money.
Mm-hmm.
People often they'll have these recurring patterns, whatever it is. For some
Right.
people, they never find a house. They never find a
Mm-hmm.
place to live where they're comfortable.
Yes.
We can look at
Yes.
that. We can look at any situation in relationships. Of
Absolutely.
course, often again, well, it's said that in work and relationships, we recreate these
The family
early
patterns.
patterns in order to,
Yes.
in a way, be wounded again, to become conscious of them, to bring them up
Yes.
and let
Exactly. The
them,
boss becomes the parent. The
yeah,
peers become the coworkers become our siblings. In a
right.
relationship, that person becomes the parent with whom we had the most challenging experience, so that we
Hmm.
can work with those wounds again, so that we
Hmm.
can finally perhaps heal them. Now,
Yeah.
one of the things that just became apparent to me as we were doing this work
Mm.
was something I want to emphasize for our viewers, and that is that your family and your ancestors want you to be free. And I want to draw the parallel between that and I want to draw the parallel between your family wants you to be free and God's will for you is perfect happiness. There is a universe that wills your good. You may have believed otherwise because of your miseducation and your misunderstandings. But the universe wills your good, as do your ancestors. They do not want you to be locked into their old patterns. For when you free yourself, you free them too. It has been said that when we heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward.
Yeah, it's another reason this work feels so powerful. Sometimes we
Yes.
will set up a person's grandmother, great grandmother, great great great, and we'll see the
Mhm.
same pattern has kept repeating. And it
Yes.
really feels like the healing is going back, like you're healing
Hmm.
these past generations as well as future, allowing the
Yes.
children not to have to take that on. And so that's why it's
Exactly.
very
And
powerful.
what's fascinating about that is now science is embracing that because science has just begun to embrace epigenetic studies, which
Yeah.
is indicative of how trauma can be passed from generation to generation, and how and healing can be passed from generation
Absolutely.
to generation.
Epigenetics shows that, if a grandparent was in a famine, war, trauma, it shows up in the grandkids. I mean, these things
Hmm.
get passed down,
Yes.
and that person, and this work also can be done with people who are adopted. They have no
Hmm.
idea who their parents were. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter. You still have a mother, you still have a father, and you can still open up to that flow of love and life force to come through. And yeah, it works in all situations.
Absolutely. I want to work with an example because somebody brought up illness.
Mm.
And the first time this became apparent, oh God, I was in Virginia, so this must have been good 30 years ago. But I had a woman, I was doing a consultation with her, and she asked me, why can't I seem to get well? And all of a sudden, I saw a white cat and a hand petting the white cat. And
Mm.
what became clear to me was that the reason that she couldn't get well was because when she was sick, when she was a kid and she would get sick, she would get attention from her otherwise too busy parents. And so, on some level, she equated getting sick with getting the love that she needed to survive.
Hmm.
And so, on some level in her mind, she equated those two to the degree that her mind got distorted, or as you would say, her energy field got distorted into believing that she had to get sick to get love.
Yeah, yeah. These
Now, have you
distortions.
experienced anything like that
Oh,
in
all
your
the
mind?
time, and that's basically what's going on in illness, and
Mhm.
so many of the times, particularly for these mysterious ones that keep
Yes,
repeating, and they're
yes.
always the same kind of pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So often we find that, and the way I work with this, every constellation is different, and you never know
Mm-hmm.
what direction it's going to go because you're working with the unconscious material, and that's the beauty of it. And it's completely
Yes.
individual. But one thing I sometimes do is I'll set up the person, and we'll see how that person is showing up in the field with the representative. And then I'll like pull out of them, here's your life force, and we'll pick another person. Now you represent that person's life force. And for people who are chronically ill, often that life force will be very weakened and in a very
Mm.
difficult situation.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be able to see what they respond to and how to bring in resources,
Mm-hmm.
the seen and unseen resources, and hook them up to the
Mm-hmm.
ancestral support.
Mm-hmm.
And we have big insights and big shifts in people's ability to resolve whatever the problem, whether it's a health one, a relationship one, a prosperity,
Because it's
financial,
all
whatever you want to look
prosperity.
at.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And let's
And
work with this a little bit more. And what I like to do in in these sessions, because one of the objectives of the Miracle of Prosperity is to relate everything to A Course in Miracles, because uh, people sometimes find A Course in Miracles hard to grasp. But when we relate everything that we're talking about to A Course in Miracles, they find A Course in Miracles more accessible as well. So there's a lesson in A Course in Miracles, Wanda, if you could please look it up. Sickness is a defense against the truth. Because and in A Course in Miracles, that lesson is so profound because what it's saying is the truth is you are loved. The truth is you are lovable. The truth is you are loveable. When you get sick, it's based on a belief that you are not these things and that you need to be sick in order to feel loved.
exactly, the
So,
field is bringing stuff up to be felt. Exactly. And it's
yes.
often our judgments. If we can, there's a poem by Rumi, meet me on the field beyond right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we had the right mother and father for us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be who we are.
Right.
So when we can accept our fate, and in trauma, we say, no, this can't be happening. We get
Mm-hmm.
frozen in that no. And we're opening
Yes.
up to an acceptance. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, this is my life. Yes, that was part of my fate to have them. And now
Mm-hmm.
from where I am, I'm going to start moving forward. And that
Yes.
acceptance, and it's not agreeing that, oh, what you did was right. It's I agree that it happened. It's getting
Yes.
out of that unfrozenness, and like emotions, feelings are
Yes.
meant to move, they're meant to be
Move
felt.
from. Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a lesson in A Course in Miracles that helps us with that. It's all things are lessons God would have me learn. which tells us that everything is all right. Everything is all right. We judge it as good, bad, this or that. But as lesson 135 says, if you only knew that all things past, present, and to be were gently planned by the one who would lead you to your good, which correlates to the Bible, which says all things work together for the good. All things are lessons God would have us learn. As you say, let us get out of the frozen judgment of it, and let's get into the enlightened healing of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
You allow the energy to start flowing through you without judgment, and then
Yes.
how think of it. You're sort of demanding from your mother, your father, love me unconditionally. I hate you so much. I'm so angry at you, and please love me unconditionally. Well, why you're demanding something from them that you're not giving to them? How is it?
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, love is a flow. Well, A Course in Miracles says the ego is insane, and that's an example of the ego's insanity. I don't feel loved, so I hate you, so I want you to love me. And how does that keep us in the flow of love? It doesn't.
And in the family constellation, we see the truth of what's happening. And like that quote you were saying, I mean, the truth will literally set you free. It's like, it's such a relief. It's our defense against this unconscious. We know that unconscious thing that's there is pushing up against us. We know that it's true. And when we admit it and we allow it and we accept it, and then we say, okay, I'm going to go on from here, that it creates a whole new level where you have forward movement in your life.
Absolutely. So we have some questions I want to address. Tig Pollock had a question. By more prosperous, are we referring to material prosperity? And I want to address that.
I say 100% no. We're presenting to a full, rich life, whatever that means to you. And you should be aware. I've lived 2 years in Calcutta studying yoga and meditation, my guru.
Yes.
And I do both Western and Indian Vedic astrology. I was interviewed by CNN, Washington Post for my astrology work. And so the a person sweeping the street in Calcutta could be the happiest person in the world.
Yes.
There's nothing limiting the person's happiness.
Absolutely.
What creates happiness is living a life of purpose and meaning. And like you say, there's no reason there should be a lack on any level. We want to develop ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially. Every phase of life, every part of life should be healthy and balanced.
Exactly.
It's that simple. This is not anything complicated to.
Exactly.
We live in a materialistic society where there are some billionaires that obviously have some kind of emptiness in their soul where they never get enough, and that doesn't even cause them happiness. So
yeah, there was a title
living
of a
your
book
life
about
purpose.
there was a title of a book about a certain billionaire, Too Much and Never Enough, and it was very typical of that. And yeah. And one of the things that we do in the setup to this program, because it's actually the first chapter of my book, The Soul of Prosperity, is we look at prosperity as a multidimensional concept. We look at health. We look at professional well-being. We look at an inner sense of happiness that is inner-generated, regardless of anything going on in your outer world. We look at your relationships, both family and otherwise. And those are all places where you can prosper. So it's not...
And prosper is the key word. It's how do you thrive? How do you prosper?
Yes.
What is a healthy plant? Healthy plant is prospering. It is thriving.
Yes.
That's prosperity. It's not I own my bank account is such and such or this or that. It means to live with full life force.
Yes, with full
live the life you're meant to be living.
Absolutely.
The life that you want to live.
Absolutely. So we're going to go to break on that. We're going to come back with a few last things here on the New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience? Or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. behind the scenes, or being the star. Let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
Wow, I blew Jim away. I tell you, the energy is powerful here tonight. I'm sending out the waves. And in this work, we pay attention to the field. So I knocked your socks off. I blew you away. And literally, it's like there's no accidents. Everything happens for a reason. In this work, we pay a lot of attention to what shows up in the field. And literally, it's beautiful when you're doing work that's powerful enough to blow them away, to knock the roof off the joint. And so we're seeing some of that here. And, this work has a powerful impact. It really is felt deeply, and it moves people in powerful ways. And we're seeing that.
I was literally bowled over by the work we've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Synchronicities are a big part of this work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we had another question I'd like for us to address. Deanna has a question here, Randy. Deanna's question is, often one person, a child perhaps in a family, appears to be free of family patterning. To what do you attribute this difference?
Well, there's a beautiful poem. There's the song by Sweet Honey in the Rock that our children are not our children. So we all have our individual soul and our individual karma, our different destiny that we're living, and it's impossible to know and to judge. So I think it's helpful to even have the attitude. Let's suppose a person has a brother or sister who is severely mentally ill. Maybe they're schizophrenic. There can be huge things that it's possible that soul took that on to heal something deep, and it's part of their destiny, and they're contributing in their own way. So we can't really have judgments. Every person has their own, there are actions to reactions that have to be felt in different ways, and that's a physical law that's also karmically there in other ways. So ultimately we can't really know or judge those kind of things. We just have to hold the perspective that hopefully and that's how we help other people. Giving advice is people don't want to hear your advice. Set the example. Live a happy life. Live a prosperous life. Live generously, generous of spirit. Help people and be on purpose. And they'll see, oh my gosh, this person is really thriving. This person is so dynamic in their life. They're doing what they want in their life, and they're able to achieve what they want. That is the best way to help anyone.
Yes, thank you. And so what are you working on these days, Randy?
Well, I do a lot of astrology readings. I've during the COVID, I was interviewed by the French agency press. I've also gotten some international press. So I do on Zoom a lot of one-on-one astrology readings. And in that, we look at both your Western and the Indian Vedic chart, and that's from a Jungian perspective. So I love doing that work.
Mhm.
And I travel around. I was recently in New Orleans teaching a family constellation workshop. I've been up to Boston. And so if you check out my website, astrodc.com, ASTRO, astrodc.com, I have an events page, and I also do some online family constellations. So no matter where you are, and I work one-on-one. So people through Zoom, I'm able to work individually with anybody that wants to go deeper with this work and have an insight into what is going on in their energy field and how they can be freed up.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. That is so cool. That's so exciting. Yeah. And I've
How
got
about
some
you,
new
Jim? What have you been up to after
I've got a new
25
class
years?
coming up. Yes. Besides getting bowled over by spirit, I've got a new class coming up. It's
Hmm.
8 weeks beginning on Monday, July 10th. It's called Ask Spirit Anything. And for those of you who don't know, I channel a group of beings, the Masters of Planetary Healing and Transformation. And this group of beings, their purpose is to heal us so that we can heal others. Now, generally, they'll do a series of lectures and healings on one subject. But for 8 weeks, we're going to do Ask Spirit Anything, which means you can ask any question on any subject relevant to you. And what you'll receive is the answer that's relevant to you. You'll receive a prayer, a healing, a blessing, and an energetic transformation on that. And since it's a group, everybody in the group will benefit from your questions. For example, quite often people say, well, everybody in the group has asked the question that I wanted to ask, and I've gotten all these insights, all this wisdom, and all this healing from it. And so that's on Mondays. And then on Thursdays, I'm doing Speaking with Spirit, which is a spiritual growth and development class, which helps you to make a deeper connection with Spirit. It helps you to discern when you're hearing, feeling, or healing with Spirit versus when you're in your ego, your fears, and your doubts. And it gives you a sense of blessed assurance because you develop such a rapport with Spirit that you know that Spirit is always with you and you know that you are always blessed and embraced. And that's on Thursdays for 8 weeks. For the summer series, it's 8 weeks for the price of 6. And it's 80% sold out. So if you have an interest in this, you can check out my website or www.revjimwebb.com, and we can or contact me however you know how to contact me, and we can work it out because I have it's 80% sold out, and once it's sold out, it's sold out.
Yeah, and you're a powerhouse. You're a powerhouse, Jim. You've had a huge impact. This is the nation's capital. I live in Washington, D.C., as Jim does. It's been amazing over the years. He's been one of the really people making waves, and it's just been phenomenal knowing somebody that had such a big impact in so many people's lives as you have.
Well, thank you, Randy, and it's my honor and pleasure, and I'm so glad to have you and to have known you for 25 years, and I see the work that you are doing as well. So thank you so much. We're brothers in spirit. And let's do a 3-minute ancestral healing meditation or love words because we have
Yeah.
it.
So
Yeah.
what I'd like to have people settle in, go within, and close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that, and just you can shake your body to see if you're holding on to any tension, and have a couple of big exhales. Let yourself release any stale air in your lungs, and just take some deep, relaxing breaths. You can let go with a sigh. Just and allow yourself to breathe deeply. Breathe from your diaphragm. Often we breathe very shallowly and we don't take in the full amount of air that we can. And as you allow yourself to slowly fill up from the belly, like water is pouring from one pitcher to another, slowly filling up from the bottom of the lungs up to the top part of the lungs. Just become aware of, let go of worrying about things in the past and the present, come into the in the future and come into this present moment. And just allow yourself to be with your breath. And I'd like you to take a moment to sense that your father's standing behind your right shoulder and your mother's behind your left shoulder, and they're just reaching out, supporting you with a hand there. And you can just kind of feel their support. And they're the ones who came together. And because they came together, you got your life. And even if they didn't give you anything else, you can at least be grateful for that gift of life. And see their parents behind them, your grandparents. And they were able to pass on life to your parents, and it came to you. And your great-grandparents behind them, and your great-great-grandparents behind them. And just keep going back at your own pace. Add past generations. It doesn't matter what they look like. You won't know what they look like if you go to your great-great-great-great. You know you must have had grandfather and grandmother way back there. Keep adding past generations, and these are your roots of your being. This is how you got your life, and you're connected to this life force, this river of love and life force that gave you your life. And allow yourself just to lean back into it. They have your back. They're supporting you. They have many qualities. They have wisdom. They have strength. They have guidance. So you can do this as a daily meditation to hook up to be grateful to your ancestors. If you give them attention and love, you can feel them sending it to you. And this can be very powerful, strengthening type of meditation to do. And go all the way back to your ancient ancestors. Feel those way back. You go back far enough, we're all connected. So with much gratitude, I want to thank you, Jim, for allowing me to be here on the show. And, you are a blessing to the world. So thank you. And it's really great to be here.
You're so welcome, and thank you for being with us. And thank you also for setting up next week's show. Next week we have Ifitaya White, and she is going to work with us further on healing family trauma and ancestral trauma. So you set that up so wonderfully. So folks at home, do this meditation that Randy gifted us with during the week, and that will set you up for next Sunday at 8, where we will have Ifitaya White taking us further into healing ancestral and family trauma here on the New Thought Media Network.